Salam everyone, hello, and welcome to another episode of Sufi Soul Talk with Atiya Khan. Today we're going to talk about spiritual awakenings. And I know when we hear the word or the concept of a spiritual awakening, we get an image of sort of, peace and harmony and love, and it sounds really quite positive. However, in my own experience, it is far from that, at least initially. It is more about pain and suffering and destruction of everything that we were attached to. Because the purpose of the spiritual awakening is to help us disconnect from our ego identity and awaken to our true spiritual essence or self. And that entails a death of the ego personality, the conditioned self that we created simply to survive in this world. When we're born as young babies, children, we're extremely vulnerable and dependent on our environment, on pleasing others for our own survival. Therefore, we need to create an identity or a personality which will fit in with our environment and which will meet the approval of our environment and our society and our culture. Therefore, we tend to slowly disconnect from our own inner knowing, intuition, our voice, because oftentimes it's not acceptable. Who we really are, what we really think, is not allowed to be expressed. So we have built up a false identity over many years, and we are very attached to that identity. And what the spiritual awakening is actually doing is destroying that identity, that life, those associations, those attachments, and forcing us to go deep within to rediscover who we truly are. And that is oftentimes a very painful process, and we often have to leave behind sometimes our families, our spouses, our friends, our circle of associates, and sometimes our work. Everything kind of gets reevaluated, and whatever does no longer serve our spiritual growth has to, at least for a period of time, be put aside or is taken away from us. The other thing that I have noticed often happens with a spiritual awakening is that we come into contact or we meet our twin soul. I'm sure a lot of you are now aware of the concept of the twin soul. It is very much part of popular culture now. A lot of people are talking about it. So the concept is that, as souls, we have soul groups, soul communities, soul families, and soulmates, as well as what is called a twin soul. So these are souls who we, before being born into this incarnation, this physical realm, we agreed to sort of support each other, help each other at a soul level. We also have karmic partners and karmic relationships, which also are very difficult relationships, but are there to resolve something from at a soul level, some contracts from perhaps even a past life kind of a connection. Again, we'll get into past lives and how it is seen from an Islamic perspective in another episode. Right now we'll just leave it at that. So as far as our soul communities and soul families and soulmates are concerned, it's a relationship of support and help and a very positive sort of influence in our lives. And we would imagine that a twin soul, being the other half of our soul, would also similarly be a very positive and uplifting experience. And although the end result will be that there will be complete harmony, to get to that harmony is again a very, very painful process, because they are more like mirror souls. So whatever weaknesses, problems, issues, triggers, sort of blocks that we have will be reflected in our twin soul. So they're kind of like mirrors to us, to help us really see where we still need to work on our ego, where we still have not reached enlightenment, or where we are still unawakened. And they will be your biggest trigger, and oftentimes, the intensity of the relationship, of the connection, of the energy that you feel when you are with them will be so overpowering that you will periodically need to run, or they will need to run, and that creates further trauma. So the idea of the twin soul is something that we can find in our traditional spiritual knowledge as well. So the first twin soul were, of course, Adam and Eve. So when the Quran and the different sort of religions talk about, Eve having come from Adam, as having been a part of him, as having been one with him, and then the two separated to become two, that is the concept of the twin soul. So at a soul level, we have come from this yin yang oneness, and before being incarnated, we were separated and put onto this earth to eventually reunite and become one again. But it's a process, like even with Adam and Eve. Although they were put on earth together, they were separated through distance. So it is said that Adam landed in Sri Lanka in what is known as Adam's Peak, and Hawa, or Eve, landed in Mecca. And it took apparently Adam close to 300-400 years to actually roam the earth and finally find Eve and be reunited. The thing is that even when you do come across your twin flame and you meet them, it's not all romance and roses and harmony and peace, because like I said, they will be our biggest trigger, and they are essentially our biggest teacher. And the teaching and the awakening and all of this process is a very, very challenging one. I don't want these episodes to get too long, so I will end this episode here. Just with a final message to all the people that are going through a spiritual awakening right now. And I know there's lots and lots of people who are going through this process right now, and it's not surprising considering, what's going on in the world. Hang in there. It's not going to be easy, at least initially. You will at times think you're going crazy. people around you are at times going to think you're going completely nuts. And for a period of time, you may have to, cut out certain people from your life, certain activities, which is also happening naturally with COVID and isolation, and the universe is kind of forcing us to do that anyway. But I do promise you that, if you stay on the course, you will be supported. You will find your soul group. You will find your soulmates and twin soul and your spiritual teachers, and it will start getting easier. And you will eventually find peace and joy and harmony, inshallah.